Daikaiju Network, where technical difficulties are commonplace. I am your co-host, Kent, and with me is your other co-host,
Jason. How's it going, everyone? And sorry for that technical stuff, because I did not realize that you also had to have desktop audio turned on, even though his audio was working perfectly fine on my end, because I can hear him perfectly fine, even though my audio is still going through without having desktop audio turned on.
Are we live? Like, actually live?
No, I'm just doing a record.
Seriously? Like,
Yeah, I said I was going to do a record.
oh, okay. Well, I didn't know.
Well-
but nevertheless, I'm going to be very blunt with you, ladies and gentlemen. This sucks. I don't want to do this. And
I don't want to either, but we have
you know, we had some pretty decent moments in our conversation a few days ago when we did this. And it sucks that not only do I not remember some of it, I am not going to repeat some of it because, again, I don't want to do this. I'm going to buzz through this. We're going to hit like a few points, get final thoughts in, and get the fuck out of here. So, I mean, this is the one time out of the 12 or so years we've been doing this where I don't want to sit here and podcast. And so there's a first for every time. For me, this is the first time where I'm like, I don't want to do this. So
believe me,
we're going to buzz through this. And
yeah, believe me, I'm in the same boat as you on this, but with what I realized and what you told me about it, it was like, yeah, we can't have an episode up like that, so we just have to redo it. But anyways, before we dive into all that, I just want to kind of do housekeeping here, is that if you see a subscribe button down below, if you're watching us on YouTube, the subscribe button, make sure to hit that, as well as hit the like button as well. And you can follow us everywhere in one place at our Linktree URL that you can see right on your screen, / Daikaiju Network. As far as video platforms besides YouTube, we're on Twitch, Rumble, Facebook, and as well as Odyssey, and we have audio versions of our episodes over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. We have both video and audio versions of our episodes on our own website at daikaijunetwork.com.
unless something happens there too, then you're not going to get anything. So,
well, that should not happen. So.
All right, so let's dive into this bunghole. So we're doing episode 16 through 18 of Spectreman. Episode 16 of Spectreman on my end was titled "The Retaliation of Mogonutidon." That was what was on there. I know that's not how it is, but what's the stupid title on your end?
Yeah, mine is just Megatron Part 2: The Terrible Tidal Wave.
Yeah. So this episode, more or less, it continues how much of a piece of shit the Overlord is, and I still hate him. And the biggest problem I have with this episode is the repiecing of Tokyo. This was one of the finer talking points we had before everything decided to get crapped on here a few days ago, where, we both went off on a tangent on this. I hate this plot point very, very much, because the Overlord gives a reason to George, saying that the reason why they're piecing Tokyo back together is because those earthquakes were unnatural. Mm-hmm. And George is saying, well, isn't this a bad idea, because we don't want people to forget about what Gory is and what he's done. Oh, excuse me. I'm not going to be professional here tonight.
Don't matter.
And so this got into a discussion Jason and I had where we were talking about how none of this makes sense in the turning back of the time, because technically everything Dr. Gory has done up to this point was not natural. And as a result, couldn't the overlords go ahead and turn back time, and piece Tokyo back together after all the other bullshit that's happened? And so that this whole turning back the clock and putting Tokyo back together is really inconsistent. It's a breaking of the rules. It's something I would expect out of a like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old when they're writing their stories. But not from grown-ass adults. And I know production time for these episodes is very short. They got to punch things out. But even then, this could have been easily avoided. This was one of the dumbest things I have ever seen in a tokusatsu, because it's not just lazy. It really screws up the series as a whole. It breaks every conventional piece of rulemaking that this series has made up to this point. And for something this important to have happened, should have appeared within the first 1 or 2 episodes, and it didn't. It's a piece of shit rule. It's dumb. I hate it. I hate it so much. And it's unfortunate, because I love this Magnetotron or whatever it's called. And it's unfortunate, and then as a result, I ding this episode very heavily.
Yeah, and the one thing that I pointed out in the non-usable episode now is that with episode 16, it's just pretty much, there's really nothing new as far as what you've watched in episode 15. Nothing new going on. It's pretty much still in kind of one location throughout the entire episode. Maybe a couple instances where you'll see a Bay Harbor area when Magnetron comes out, creates a tidal wave, flooding the location that you'll see throughout the entire episode, which is that apartment complex. So basically, all in all, is, you can at least say it's just a passable episode that you really don't need to necessarily watch, because all what you've seen in episode 15 is basically what you see in episode 16 here. The only difference is that Magnetron gets destroyed and maybe see a little bit of a tidal wave, and that's essentially it of the episode. There's really not much going on, and yeah, with the whole turning back time thing, yeah, it just really throws things off. It just makes it feel like you're just kind of seeing a thing in between episodes, like you don't see a whole lot, because after every episode, like, you see Tokyo pretty much back intact and everything, so it's just like you're just seeing behind the scenes sort of thing where they turn back time and just reconstruct Tokyo back together again. So, and
it messes with physics an awful lot, because if you're going to turn back time, there's so many other elements involved in the turning back of time. It should affect the people too.
If I can turn back time, I probably wouldn't want to watch this episode.
If I could turn back time, I'd say Spectreman would probably be our weak ass send off whenever we decide to call it quits for this podcast. But my final thoughts, I'm not even going to read. I'm even choking. This episode is hazardous. The Overlord is acting like Cher, but just not in as rhythmic of a way, and not as much of a friendly personality. And so the Overlord decided, hey, I'm going to listen to this Cher. I like what she's done here. She's got a good idea. I'll turn back time. Overlord's a piece of shit. This episode's a piece of shit. It actually was decent up until the very end. But I do like Magnetron. I still think it's a very unique kaiju design. George was right. The Overlord, in his silence, after George was saying, hey, like, we should never forget about Gory and not let the people forget about Gory just proves that the Overlord realizes George is correct in what he's saying. And so again, this mighty, I need to give this Overlord a nickname, like, like Big Dumbass or something like that. Like, he's got to have a nickname, because this guy is not worth, being a leader anywhere, not even, in the monkey house. I mean, this guy just isn't. This was halfway decent up until the end, and I gave it a D.
Yeah, as I stated earlier, episode 16 is something that you can just pass over, because, I mean, you've pretty much have seen everything that you would see in this episode in episode 15, with just only a couple differences, like Magnetron getting destroyed and tidal waves and everything. So, and yeah, the Magnetron suit is pretty good. Just wish they would have utilized the catfish part more, which they hardly did. You only just see...
They tried, but it was weak sauce.
Yeah, and of course the whole turning back the time, rebuilding Tokyo into one piece like nothing ever happened. Doing, wiping everyone's minds like you're the part of the Men in Black sort of thing. So, yeah, episode 16 for me is also a passable episode. It's something that I don't even need to see, but I originally gave this a C-, but I'll also give it a D.
All right, episode 17, Thunder Gay, the Flying Whale. I like the idea of a flying whale. It's knuck and futz. It's unique and interesting. I think one of the funniest lines delivered that I've ever heard comes from this episode, where Margaret, who is the one guy's daughter, I think, that died earlier in the episode. This one reporter is asking her grandfather about, what do you mean a flying whale, and trying to get more information from the grandfather about it. And so then he turns to Margaret and he goes, "You're a computer programmer. What can you tell me about a flying whale?" And I'm just thinking, hey, Jason, you're a graphic designer. What can you tell me about the Super Bowl or something like that? Like something so totally nonsensical. Or what can you tell me about kelp growth in the Chesapeake Bay? It's one of the funniest and yet stupidest lines. The grandfather doesn't give a shit about his grandson, because he's drinking water out of this big ass glass, or gin or vodka or something. He and his grandson are on this dock looking for the flying whale, and then these bullies come to taunt his grandson Tommy, and Tommy gets all upset and runs after the bullies, and the grandfather's just kind of looking off the side, kind of like kids, and then goes back to drinking. Meanwhile, 2 minutes later, his grandson's getting pummeled by the bullies, and I'm like, what kind of family is this? I don't want to be involved with this family. But I like later in the episode, too, where Gory makes the whale invisible to Spectreman. And as Spectreman's trying to fight it, he's accidentally destroying parts of the city. Mm-hmm. And people are thinking Spectreman is turning against them. I kind of like that aspect of the story. It's pretty smart and it's pretty unique to make the hero look bad. But yeah, I mean, the flying whale, sadly, after the first 25% or so of the episode, kind of is relegated to the sidelines for the most part. So it's halfway decent episode. I was hoping for more flying whale, but the flying whale ends up becoming even more useless in the final episode. We cover it here.
We're gonna have to make a T-shirt that's that says, "I want more flying whale." Or
More flying whale. More flying whale. More thunder gay.
But yeah, it's like for the title for that episode, for me, it was just Sky Whale Part 1, Unseen Enemy, which makes sense in a way. Because
I like thunder gay.
Because, you got a whale that flies in the sky and hides by camouflaging himself.
And again, I forgot, this also breaks against one of the rules of this series by this whale being a cyborg, and it's not being created out of pollution like Dr. Gory had said very early on in the series he was going to do. He was saying he was going to use pollution against the humans to conquer the earth, and this is one of he's done it before, like a couple times I think in the past, where he's used some creatures that weren't made out of pollution as a weapon, but it's another one of those.
Yeah, with this one, I know I mentioned in the unusable episode, is that it seemed to me as time progressed and even into the next episode here, that it just seemed like, even though you kind of sympathize with Thomas, who's the boy of the fisherman that got killed in that explosion by the sky whale there, it just seemed like he got more and more annoying, sort of way. It just felt like that to me. Like you sort of sympathize with him, but then when he gets a bit more annoying, it's like, God, just stop it already. It's like, you don't have to do everything yourself, just quit being a bitch from time to time. It's like, just keep your head up and just let others do things, instead of just having to do things all by yourself, and quit bitching all the damn time. But yeah, as far as the sky whale or thunder gay, that's GEY. I think that's what you
GEI.
Okay. This it's a unique concept in a way, because even though not made out of pollution or anything, it's a unique, interesting way to come up with something to like absorb all the electricity from the city, which is what Dr. Gory revealed, which is what he wanted to do towards the end of this episode, but not really sure. Sort of the reason is like, are you going to use it as a weapon, or like what you did with causing an EMP, making all the vehicles and stuff stop working? Is that the sort of thing that you're going to use primarily from the sky whale, is use electricity or EMPs and then do some sort of attack after that? Who knows?
Yeah. So my final, thoughts on this were, as much as I enjoy the preposterousness of a flying whale, I was disappointed that we didn't get more of it involved with creating havoc. While there was some nice miniature work, the whale was rendered nearly moot by about a third into the episode. Still a nice episode. And I wrote that before I even saw the second episode involving this storyline, I said I hope the second part is good, and it was something I was looking for. Well, no. So, but nevertheless, I gave this episode a B+.
Yeah, this one, it's a heck of a lot better compared to the previous two episodes. Of like the Sky Whale, aka Thunder Gay, and yeah, it's a bit better. Seems like they're trying to, as far as the writers go, trying to get back into their kind of own set of rules that they've sort of set to kind of make things a bit ridiculous in a way. They know how ridiculous they are. I would say the next episode does much better with that, but I think it's kind of leading up to that. So, yeah, episode 17, it's pretty good, much better compared to episode 16, which is passable in my eyes. So, yeah, I give episode 17 a C+.
So episode 18 on my end is titled Infiltrate Monster Island.
Mine is Sky Whale Part 2, Battle of Giants.
So apparently both George and Tommy are expert knife handlers now.
Yeah.
And then these other gorillas that attack them, their masks look even worse than the mask worn by Karis and Dr. Gory. I thought Karis should be called Mumbles because that's all he seems to do.
Yeah, the greatest day ever.
That was even too clear. And
also, the one thing I want to point out too is that apparently Thomas and Joji are quite the experts at being thieves and not being seen.
Yeah, and we find out too that Thundergay ends up kind of responding to kind of how Spectreman moves about. So if Spectreman gets bigger, the whale gets bigger. Spectreman gets smaller, the whale gets smaller. He
Bless you.
Yeah. Spectreman moves around, the whale moves around, and so Spectreman decides, okay, you guys take this bomb, and when I sit down and don't move, the whale won't move, so go in and plant this bomb inside this dumbass whale. So he lies down on the fucking beach and he doesn't move, and so then Tommy and all these guys go into the whale to plant this bomb, and meanwhile Karis finds Spectreman just lying there on the beach, and kind of like Jason said, he mumbles on my life, and so he proceeds to punch and beat and slap and do all sorts of crap against Spectreman. And Spectreman just takes it like the champ he is. And then after a while, when the bomb has been planted and everyone is at a safe distance, Spectreman gets up and starts kicking the crap out of Karis, and it's pretty funny. And I about crap myself because there's one like punch that Spectreman did that made Karis twirl and like twirl along 30, 40, 50 feet along the beach here, where he punched him and just like, it was very much in line with how ridiculous this series is. And out of all the crazy things that we've seen, and a lot of them involve Karis in this series so far, including the stomping of heads into people's bodies at episode 5 or whatever that was,
probably a couple episodes in.
And I thought that was crazy. This is maybe even more hilarious. So we got a good laugh out of it.
Yeah. The one thing that I've kind of had an issue with is that towards the end of the previous episode and into episode 18, which is kind of about half of it, is when the Sky Whale or Thundergay turns into just kind of an island when he lands into the ocean there. And then you have Joji, Thomas, and then the other G-Team crew go over there, scout everything, and kind of going all the way to find this core. I'm not entirely sure the meaning to having the Sky Whale turn into an island, even though you kind of know where he's at. For that matter, I would just say just camouflage like you did when you were flying around and everything, so then you wouldn't have that you wouldn't have anyone track you down, instead of just having everyone know where you land and then turning yourself into an island. That just kind of defeats the purpose in a way, but it's sort of an interesting concept, but that's sort of a huge plot hole in a way. But yeah. And then the other thing is that when Thomas and Joji were about to head over to the quote unquote island that is the Sky Whale, that they were stealing this inflatable boat, and you had this guy just kind of wandering around with this lantern, and I kid you not, he probably should have seen them, like some movement at least a few times, but like out in the open, but apparently didn't. And then they hide right beside this one boat once they get this inflatable boat, and waited from when it was still dark until it was broad daylight. so it's like you have to ask yourself, how long did they stay there? It's like you could have just gone right away as soon as you got the inflatable boat.
Yeah, I know. I just whatever.
But yeah, besides that whole criticism there, the car is kicking the crap out of Spectreman while he was trying to make the Sky Whale weak in order for the G team to plant the bomb and everything. I think that was pretty hilarious and kind of the rule set by the writers and stuff. That's kind of their. I think that they should stick around with being ridiculous in a way.
Yeah, I like that sort of crap, but
yeah.
Oh well. So my final thoughts, I was hoping for more Thunder Gay action, but the whale is thrown into the sidelines for nearly the entire episode. On the other hand, there's some hilarious scenes of George and Tommy fighting a couple of the gorilla minions and Karis getting in on the action near the end as well. It's entertaining enough and had me smiling with glee at some of its silliness when it was done, and I gave it a B-.
Yeah, with this one, it's pretty ridiculous. I would say out of the 3 batches of episodes that we've seen for this episode, this one is probably the best one, with how ridiculous it is. And at least you have Karis in here being his usual goofy self, kicking the crap out of Spectreman when he's purposely trying to be weak in order to get the G team to plant the bomb inside of the Sky Whale here. And yeah, that's essentially it for me on this episode. I would give it a C+ also on this one.
Awesome. So, I sorry for the dour mood and all that stuff here.
And for the difficulties from the unusable episode.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's listened to us for like the last year or so knows how irritated I get with the technical difficulties and the fact that we thought we had this ironed out, and we got to repeat an episode for the first time ever. I am not happy about it. And so I got better things to do with my time than to talk about.
Same here. Same here, because right now it's around mid-80s outside, and I would rather be outside right now instead of having to do this. So.
Yeah. So, hopefully this on some level is maybe it'll get you guys a good laugh at our misery or something like that. We tried the best we could to hit some of the main points of all 3 episodes. It's too bad we weren't as animated and as involved as we were here a few days ago, but at least there's something out there. So in next week now, obviously, we're gonna go back to Common Rider. So was it like episodes 19 through 21 is what we're gonna do.
Yep.
So that's what you all have to look forward there, and hopefully this shit doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and just want to make a reminder one last time: if you're watching us on YouTube and if you see a subscribe button down below, make sure to hit that as well. Smash the like button, and you can follow Daikaiju Network everywhere, all in one place at our Linktree page /Daikaiju Network. And as far as video platforms besides YouTube, we're on Twitch, Rumble, Facebook, and as well as Odyssey. And we have audio versions of our episodes on the following audio platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. We have both audio and video versions of our episodes at our own website over at daikaijunetwork.com.
So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully we're in a chipper mood next week.
Yeah. So until then, we'll see you guys next time.